Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Harvest Moon Farm. Welcome to part 2 of our What Am I Going to Do With All These Peaches video. So the video, if you watched the first one, as I said at the end of it, it got too long, so I split it into 2. If you missed the first one, I'll go ahead and link that video down below so that you can watch that one if you haven't already. So the first video dealt with the beginnings of the peaches that I bought and the plums that my grandson and I harvested from my cousin's house. And this video is going to continue on with the process of how I am processing, and sorry, the kitty is moving, is bumping into my tripod. This video will continue what I'm doing to process all of this fruit. We're going to make some jelly. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't watched the first video, be sure to go back and check it out. All right, so I just went and put those trays of sliced peaches in the freeze dryer. So now I'm gonna keep on peeling and slicing, and then we will make our peach pie filling with the rest of these. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start the sugar mixture for our peaches. My bowl's getting full and I want to start getting some into this pan. So I am going to, let me see here. I am going to 4 times this recipe, and then I'll measure out the peaches that I've got sliced to match that. So we need vanilla, lemon juice, cornstarch, white sugar, brown sugar, cinnamon, and water. So we need 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. So 6 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I'm so sad, my little glass measuring cup that I was using to measure my liquid, my small amounts of liquid, I went to get it out of the dishwasher the other day and it was broken. So, okay. Let's see. A half a teaspoon of cinnamon. 12 tablespoons of cornstarch. And this is where if you wanted to can this, you would not be able to use cornstarch. You'd have to use a recipe that uses clear gel, but I'm going to freeze mine, so this is going to be okay. And I said 12, so 1, 2, I need to get some more cornstarch because I'm about out. All right, so there's my cornstarch. 2 cups of white sugar and 2 cups of brown sugar. One, 2, there's our white sugar. Alright, there's our 2 cups of brown sugar. Alright, so we're going to pour this in. Go ahead and turn this on, and then we're going to get a whisk. A whisk is going to be, the easiest way to kind of get all of this incorporated, especially the cornstarch, because it is kind of difficult to incorporate at first. So once we get everything whisked together, and our sugars melt and everything is fully incorporated, then we're going to bring that to a boil, and we're going to let it cook about 2 or 3 minutes. May take a little bit longer with this bigger amount, but we just want to cook it until our sauce thickens, because this is going to be the sauce juice part of our pie filling. So right now I have a big old clump of cornstarch in here. I don't know if you can see that. So we want to keep stirring this until it dissolves. Alright, so I think our cornstarch is pretty well stirred in now. Oh, my husband must be home. The dog's going crazy. So we're just going to go ahead and let this come to a boil. It's pretty close. And then I'm just going to cook it and stir until it starts thickening up, and then we'll go ahead and start adding our peaches. All right, so we need approximately, what am I trying to say? 5 1/4 cups for each recipe. So we're gonna do about 21 cups of peaches. So this is, this measuring cup is 4 here. There's the first 4. Alright, so I think I'm going to have pretty much exactly what I needed. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain them and put them straight into the pan, and then I'm going to stir them in. Alright, is that my last peach? Yep, okay. Let's go ahead and get all of these stirred in here. Oh my gosh, this smells so good. I'm almost thinking I might need, spluttered myself, I might need a few more peaches. Alright, so I'm going to turn this on low. I might add 1 or 2 more peaches in here because it is pretty saucy. But I'm going to go ahead and just let that start cooking, and we're just going to cook it until the peaches are soft but not, you know, mushy, because we don't want to have mushy pie filling. Alright, so I went ahead and just peeled and sliced up the rest of the peaches that were in that batch, except for the ones that had the little weird deformities. And those I'm going to use for jelly. So, whoa, so now I'm gonna turn this up so I can let it cook. Each one of these recipes that I made, which there's 4 in here, each of them should make a single pie. So we're gonna let this cook. Once it's done, I'm gonna turn the heat off, take it off the heat, put the lid on it, and just let it cool. And then once it's cool, I'm gonna put it in freezer bags. So I'll just get 4 bags out and just divide it among those 4. Should be approximately 5 cups each. So I'll start that way, dividing it into the bags. And then once they're full, I'll label them before I start filling them. Then I'm gonna lay them flat on a cookie tray and put them in the freezer and let them freeze flat. And then once they're frozen solid, then I can stand them up in my freezer so they take up less space. But we're gonna let this cook for a little bit longer. They're getting soft, but they're not completely soft. So another maybe minute or 2, and then we'll turn this off and put the lid on. And then I'll be back when it's time to start dishing these into our freezer bags. Okay, so I forgot to film last night when I bagged up the pie filling, but I got 4 quart-sized baggies full of pie filling. And so now all I'm going to do with these is pit them. I'm going to cut out any of the bad spots. I'm not going to peel them. I'm just going to kind of cut them in smaller pieces, and we're going to start cooking this down to make our jelly or jam. And it's a good thing I'm doing these today, because I'm not sure how much longer these peaches would last, because they're starting to get soft and they're getting some bruised spots. So definitely don't want to let all this deliciousness go bad and go to waste. And my The peaches that I put in the freeze dryer are done. So once I get these all cut up and on the stove, then I'll go down and get those, and I need to figure out what I'm gonna put them in. I need to buy some more big jars, but I don't have any right now, so I might just put them in. See, like this one's got quite a few little bad spots in it where it's bruised. I might just put them in baggies until I can get some more jars tomorrow or later tonight. All right, so just have a few more peaches here. My stock pot's getting reasonably full. All right, one left. Ooh, that feels like it might have some bad spots in it. That one's kind of gross, so we'll just toss that one. All right. So I've got that bucket of stuff to go to the compost, the peels and pits and all of that stuff. Alright, so I am going to put, well, let me just show you. So this is about at least 3/4 of the way full. So I'm going to put just a little bit of water in it. Alright, so here's the pot. I'm going to set the lid back on it. We're going to let these start cooking down. And then I am going to kind of stir this as it cooks down. And we want to let it cook all the way down, and then we're going to run it through a sieve. I might use my sauce master. That might be the easiest way to do this. And then we'll end up with the juice that we can use to make the jelly. And then I may start by straining out the peel and then running the pulp through the sauce master so that I have sauce so that I can make some jam. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes. So I'm going to let that cook down. I'm going to run downstairs now and get my trays from the freeze dryer. All right, so, ooh, burn. So I've got my trays here, and all I have is this gigantic bag. That's not true. I think I have a bag that's more appropriately sized. Let me go grab that one. I have some bags that are this size. I think these will work better. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to try, let me see, one of these little ones. Very strong peach flavor. Ooh, but not quite as sweet as when they were fresh. So, eating them as snacks like this, they might be a little tart. They would be good though added to something, like something that's already maybe has a little bit of sweetness in it, like granola or yogurt. And I bet if you reconstitute them, that sweetness will come back. So it looks like I'm going to be able to get 2 trays in each bag. Okay. So I'm going to zip these, but I'm not going to heat seal them because I do want to put them into jars tomorrow or later tonight whenever I can have a chance to go get some more half-gallon jars. Hopefully my Walmart has some and I don't have to order them, because sometimes that happens. But even if I have to order them and they'll be here in a few days, then this will still be fine, just sealed in here without being heat sealed. Just the zip seal will be fine for a couple of days. All right, so I'll go ahead and add these to my stack of things that are done. My trays are going to go over here to be washed. I'm going to give, whoops, I'm going to give this a little bit of a stir. So we'll just continue letting these cook down. And then once they're all cooked down, then I'll go ahead and decide exactly how I want to strain them, whether I want to try and preserve some of the pulp or just run everything through and let it be like that. All right, so I'll be back when this is cooked down and it's time to move on to the straining step. Okay, so I decided I'm just going to run all of this through here. I'm not going to keep any of the pulp out, so I'm not going to take the peels out. Is my bowl broken? No, okay. Now, I've got this towel here because mine leaks. I'm not sure if I don't have something set up right or what. Oh, these smell so good. So what I'm going to do is get something different because this isn't working. So I'm just going to use this measuring cup to scoop out my peaches. And I'm going to put them in here. And then I'm going to turn this. And what it's going to do is it's going to push all those peaches through this, oh there, see it's dripping, through this grinder and push out the juice. Now it is pushing out some of the pulp and that is okay. The main part of the pulp is going to fall into this other bowl. Okay, this is not set up right here. Yeah, this design is a little bit weird. Like it doesn't really work. I don't know, I feel like it doesn't work exactly like it should, or maybe I just don't have something set up right and I just don't understand how it's supposed to work, which is a distinct possibility. And also this, the screen that I have is for tomatoes. It is not for peaches. There are specific ones you can buy for fruit, but I'm going to use this one to do the initial straining, and then I'll run it through a layer of cloth or cheesecloth so that I can get the rest of the pulp out. Oh. And it does work, it's just, I feel like the way you have to set it doesn't really work the way it should. I don't know. Like I said, maybe I just have something set up wrong. And so I did just wash all of my cloth that I use to strain. So let me see if I can figure out how to make this work here. I'm going to take, oh shoot. This is where I end up dirtying every single one of my dishes, trying to figure out how to make this do what I want it to do. That's okay. All right, so I'm gonna set this little fine mesh colander here, and I'm going to pour this juice and pulp through it and the cloth, and the cloth will catch that pulp. Actually, I don't know how well you can see that. So the cloth is going to catch this pulp, and then I can use that, whoops, to make something else if I want. And the juice that runs through the cloth and the sieve or the colander will be just, it'll be just the pure juice. So then we can use that to make our jelly. And this should be falling on this side. And if nothing else, I can just give this pulp to the chickens since the seeds are out of it, the pits are out of it, and they will really enjoy it. Oh shoot. I need more hands.
You need help, Mama?
Yeah, if you would come and just hold this towel up because it's dripping and I don't know.
After I almost died on the run.
Don't do that.
I dripped.
If you could just hold this like that so it'll, see how it kind of is dripping there. I don't know if I don't have something together right or if I don't have it tight enough or what, but, oh, sorry.
Or if you're just throwing peaches at me.
Sorry. All right,
See how it
so
is.
here's the last of those peaches. Thank you.
Go.
And then we'll go ahead and run this through. And then we'll let, once that first batch is fully strained through the cloth, then we will squeeze it out and run this next batch through the cloth until we end up with just our juice. And then in here, our bowl here that we're using to strain this into, I'm just going to kind of stir this just a little bit so that it stirs it up and gets the rest of that juice falling down into the bowl. Just helps it strain. So this sauce master really does work well. It's just, I can't figure out the best way to get it on my counter so that it makes the least mess. And I have never made peach jelly before. Because like I said, last year I had way fewer peaches. And so I just jarred most of them up. I did dehydrate some for the kids, for the grandkids. But I use this, if you've not seen any of my tomato videos, I use this when I am trying to make sauce with my tomatoes. That way I can just cook them down and then run it through the sauce master. It pulls all the seeds and the skin and all the extra pulp out, and then I can just pour the juice back into whatever I'm cooking it in and just let it reduce until it's as thick as I want it. So it is much easier than running it through a hand sieve, but it might make a little bit more of a mess. I'm not sure. All right, so I'm just gonna let that drain, or strain, I guess I should say, until this is all dripped through. I'll put the rest of the juice through. When I'm all done, when it's all done straining and I've got just my juice left, I'll be back and we can start working on our jelly. Okay, so we let our juice and pulp strain for several hours. And now we are going to finally make our jelly. Although I need my glasses because I can't read this. Okay, so I normally would use the Pomona's pectin, but I was cleaning out some cabinets and I found a bunch of just regular Sure Gel pectin that needs to get used up. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that today. So we're going to use more sugar, but that's okay. Alrighty. Oh my gosh, that did not help at all. And I'm going this afternoon to a birthday party for my oldest grandson's little brother from his mom. Gets confusing, I know. Anyway, I'm going to his birthday party. He's 5, or it's his 5th birthday. I don't know exactly when his birthday is or was. But they live not too far from my dad, so I'm going to go by my dad's, take him some of the chicken that I processed earlier, a month or so ago. I don't remember when that was. So I'm trying to get all this done this morning so that I can make it to do everything I want to do on time. So we want to use these instructions. Oh, here we go. I'm being silly. Okay. All right, so now that I finally figured out what I need to do here, I need 7 cups of juice for each recipe, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and 5 cups of sugar. Oh no, wait, that's the wrong one. 5.5 cups of sugar. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is measure and see how much juice I actually have. So I've got the juice in this bowl right here, and I'm just going to measure it out into my pot that I'm going to use. There is 1.5 cups. Two and a half. 3 3/4. I know this is painful, sorry. All right, so there is 7 cups. I do have a little bit left. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to let this keep straining because I am getting more. I'm going to go ahead and let that pulp keep straining because I am still getting some juice off of it. So we'll see how much we end up with, and maybe we can do a half portion. Actually, I should just measure this. Let's see. There's 2 more. Okay, so I did actually have exactly 1.5 recipes. So, goodness, what do I have on my counter? All right, so I'm going to go ahead and gather my other ingredients. I need lemon juice, and each recipe needs 2 tablespoons, so I need 3 for my 1.5 times recipe here. So there's 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna have to go downstairs and fill my sugar container because I'm gonna need, let's see, 5.5 plus 2 3/4. What is that? 7, 8 1/4. Yeah, so I'm gonna go down and get some more sugar. I'll be right back. Filled up the sugar container. So we're going to get this started warming up. And we want to bring it to a rolling boil. And then once it's at a rolling boil, then we'll add our sugar. Bring it back to a rolling boil, let it cook for 1 minute, and then we're going to start filling our jars. Okay, and I did forget a step here. We want to stir our pectin into our juice as it's coming to the first boil. So this one I'm just going to use about half of this packet. Let's see. Okay. Since I have a 1.5 times recipe here. And this pectin will dissolve as this juice heats up. So one thing when you're using this regular pectin, unlike the pomonas, is that you do have to use the full sugar amount. You cannot reduce it. There is a low sugar pectin that you can buy, just the regular pectin, and it will work, but the jelly is usually a softer set. The pomonas is the only one I've ever seen that you can use quite a bit less sugar than the typical jelly. And like I said, that's normally what I use, but I found these other boxes. In fact, I've got two more full packages, so I'll probably use some of that when I do the plum jelly, which I still have 2 trays of plums that I have to pit, so not sure when that'll be. I do have the first batch that I pitted in the refrigerator, so I probably need to start cooking it down. And if I have time, I might do that this morning. You can add some butter in here to help reduce the foaming. Oh, I emptied my butter and I forgot to fill it. That's optional. I typically don't do it, but you can if you add like I think it's like a half a teaspoon, it says on the package. I'm pretty sure it's a half a teaspoon per package, per recipe. Will just kind of help reduce that foaming. It doesn't affect the flavor, but I don't typically worry about it. So our juice, lemon juice and pectin, it's getting pretty close to a boil. So a hard rolling boil, that is when it's boiling so much that when you stir it, it makes no difference in the amount of boiling that you get. So you know how when something first starts boiling and you stir it, the bubbles kind of go down a little bit. A hard rolling boil is one that cannot be stirred down. So I'm going to bring you in a little closer so that you can see when we start adding our sugar what this looks like. If I can get it to focus, there we go. So you can see that this is boiling, and when I stir, it just keeps boiling. So we're going to go ahead and add our sugar. So there's our quarter. And then we need 8 full cups. All right, there's our 8 cups. We're just going to keep stirring our mixture until it comes back to a rolling boil. And then once it's at the rolling boil, then we will start our timer for 1 minute. And it actually is possible to make the jelly without pectin. You just have to let it boil for a really, really long time. Basically, you're gonna boil it until it's kind of at a softball stage. I think that's the right temperature. My sister has done that before and she said it takes a really, really long time. But just so you know, it can be done. So do you guys have a favorite jelly or jam? Mine is actually strawberry. But at our previous house, we had a blackberry bush that actually produced the very first year, and it produced a ton. It grew like crazy. And I made blackberry jelly a couple of years, and it was so, so good. So whatever your favorite is, pop it down there in the comments. I'm curious to see. But I wouldn't call it a hard rolling boil yet. It's pretty close. Alright, So we're going to set our timer now for 1 minute, and we're just going to let it boil for that minute. I'm stirring just enough to keep it from kind of bubbling over. And when that minute is up, we are going to turn our heat off. Oh goodness, I better turn it down a little bit. It's amazing how much this will bubble up once you add that sugar in there. All right, we've got about 5 seconds left. All right, heat off. Okay, you can skim this foam off if it bothers you. Like I said, it does not bother me. So I'm going to use this, and I'm just going to start filling my jars, and we want to fill them to a 1/4 inch head space. Ouchie, that gets hot. We just about got it. Ouchie. Alrighty, there we go. Alright, so now we are going to wipe the rims of our jars. This is especially important with anything out that's going to be sticky, like jelly or greasy, because we want to make sure that we want to make sure that there's nothing that causes this to not seal. These jars are super hot because after all this time and energy, you don't want to lose a jar to a bad seal just because you forgot to wipe the rims, because that would be so disappointing. All right, let me get my lids. And I thought I was out of 4 jars. I thought I was out of the regular mouth 4 jars. I found them in my garage, in my canning stuff. So we're going to use those. We're going to get them on all of our jars and put the lids on them. Or the rings, I guess. Okay. Okay, so let's wipe up some of this jelly that I dripped on my stove before it sets into a hard brick of sugar. And I'm gonna go get my steam canner and get it going. Probably should have had this going while I was working on my fruit, but I don't really have room here. All right, so I've got this on. Not sure what I'm doing here. I'm gonna go ahead and put my jars in. The only thing about the steam canner is that you have to make sure you leave enough room around the edges to get your lid back on. Oh, so close. All right. So I'm gonna have to do this in 2 batches, which is fine. I'm gonna put this on here and I'm going to watch my gauge. So I'm just gonna watch my gauge, and when it gets up to the mark for my altitude, my area where this hit the right temperature, then I'm going to start my timer and we're going to process these for 5 minutes. We'll turn the heat off. We'll leave them in for an additional 5 minutes, and then we'll take them out and put them on a towel and let them sit for 24 hours. Okay, so while these 2 batches of peach jelly process through the canner, I'm going to go ahead and get the plums that I have pitted in this heavy bottom pot here, and I'm going to start cooking these down so that I can strain the juice out of them, because I don't want these to go bad in the refrigerator after all that work of pitting them. Alright, so I'm just going to set this back here, turn the heat on, and we will let those cook down. Okay, so this is almost up to the level I need it to be at. So I'm going to use my little meat grinder thing here. Not grinder, meat, I don't know, whatever this thing is. Ow, that thing's hot. Okay, so the mail lady was just here, and so he was having, oh my goodness, you can't even see me. Let's see here. He was having a fit because the mail lady was delivering a package. Okay, so the plums, I'm using this meat, I don't know what this thing's called. Anyway, to kind of pulverize the plums so that it's gonna give me the most juice. So this is pushing all of the pulp and stuff out of the skins, breaking them up, and then I'm gonna get it nice and hot, and then I'm gonna run it through a cloth and a colander. A couple more minutes, just like we did the peaches. Oh, I just splattered plums on my wall, on my stove. Oh my goodness, what a mess. All right, I'm super excited. So I just got my copy of The Tiny But Mighty Farm by Jill from Whispering Willow Homestead Farm? Whispering Willow Farm. So I'm super excited about this. The dog apparently was super excited too. Alright, so this is hot, so I'm going to take this over and I'm going to pour it through my cloth and let it start straining down. I'm going to move my book so that I don't splash plum on it. Alright, so this is nice and hot. All right. Okay, so I just set the timer for the canner. So we're gonna let that go 5 minutes with the heat on, 5 minutes with the heat off. And then we'll get our jars over here on this towel and let them sit. And then I can get that second batch of the peach jelly in and we'll get it cooked down too.
Thanks, it's for him. And we'll try to get the dough.
And then I'll get that second batch of jars in the steam canner and we'll can those. And then we'll have all of them sitting out here to cool. And then sometime tomorrow I can label them, take the rings off, wipe them down if they're a little sticky, and get them put away. So this has been a week-long progress, so this has been a week-long project so far because I went and got those peaches last Saturday. And started processing them on Sunday. But we've done a lot with these peaches. So we've got, you know, all the jarred up peaches in syrup. We've got peach pie filling in the freezer. We've got some freeze-dried peaches, and now we're gonna have this peach jelly. So that was a really good, what do I wanna say? Really good haul out of the peaches that I bought. Totally worth the money. They are so delicious. And one of these days I will have my own peaches. Hopefully they're as good as the peaches that I've been buying from this other orchard. Alright, so the plums that I already had pitted, that I cooked down yesterday, and I let those drain all night, so we've got our juice here. We've got enough for one recipe. So we had 5½ cups of juice, and I need to get the packet because I can't remember if it needs lemon juice. So this one does not need lemon juice. So we're going to let this come to a boil, and then we're going to add our sugar, which for this we need 6½ cups of sugar. And then just like our peach jelly, we're going to let it boil. Once it comes to a rolling boil, we'll let it boil for exactly 1 minute, turn it off, jar it up, and put it in the canner. So while that's heating, I'm going to go ahead, fill my canner back up. And then I'm going to put it on this back one and just let it kind of start heating. And then I had to go get some more jars. So I'm going to go ahead and get those washed up while our juice comes to a boil. Alright, and I just noticed that the peach jelly did not set, so I'm going to have to recook it and process it again, which is frustrating, but sometimes that happens. And I was cooking more than one batch, which typically you shouldn't do. Alright, so we're starting to boil. We're going to go ahead and get our sugar in here before it boils over. I'm going to turn this down because I do need just a little bit more sugar. I don't want this to boil over while I'm downstairs. So I'm going to run down, I'm going to turn this down, I'm going to run down and fill my sugar container. So I do need about 1 more cup of sugar. All right. Oops. So now we can turn this back up. Oh, I'm super disappointed about my jelly. I didn't even think to check it when I got home last night from the birthday party. And I just went to take my lids off and realized that it did not set. But, like I said, sometimes that happens, and it's a pretty easy fix, even though it's frustrating. Go ahead and get my jars over here. So this is a smaller pot than the one I was using yesterday, obviously. So I turned my heat down just a little bit so that it doesn't boil over, so that I can keep it stirred within the confines of this pot while it does its boil. And I am going to stir the entire time because otherwise this is absolutely going to boil over. Electric stoves are so hard to control. Oh shoot, come on. Ah. Get it off there just for a second. There we go. Now this is one problem that you do not have when you use, ooh yummy, when you use the Pomona's pectin, it always sets. But, like I said, I wanted to use up this other regular pectin first, since it was older. Alright, let's give this a shot. Let that slow down its boil for a minute. And just like our peach, we want to do this to 1/4 inch of headspace. Oops, that's not quite. We're going to go ahead and wipe our rims. And this jar did not have enough to fill all the way, so I'll just put a screw top lid on it and put it in the refrigerator. I'm going to go ahead and move this, and I can see now that this is setting up inside the pan as it cools. It's getting thicker. So this one is going to set up. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and slide this over here, turn this back on, turn that off. And we'll go ahead and set these in as we get the lids on them. Set our lid on here. We're going to let this come up to our gauge, and then we're going to set our timer for 5 minutes. And I'm going to clean up a little bit of this jelly that I spilled everywhere here. This one I'm just going to set over here to the side to cool a little bit before I put it in the fridge. And then these, I'm going to pop open and pour this back in a pot. The worst thing about this not setting and me having to redo it is that these lids were wasted, so that is super sad. But they can be used for other things, just not canning projects. While that's canning, I'm going to go ahead and start cooking this again. I am going to go ahead and add the other half of this packet of pectin. So I'm going to go ahead and cook the other half of this pectin packet in. All right, so I'm going to set my 5 minutes for these plum jars. There we go. And so I am only going to cook or reprocess these peach jellies half the stash at a time. So I just opened 8 jars. I've got 8 more jars over there ready to empty and reprocess. But this will definitely not hold more than 8 jars worth and be able to cook it down or cook it. So I'm having a hard time. This pot doesn't really sit all the way back on the burner that's on the back of my stove. It's too big. So when I'm ready to let this sit for 5 minutes, I'm just going to put that pot onto this big front burner so that it will cook faster and more evenly, since this isn't really hitting the entire bottom of this pot. All right, so there's our 5 minutes. Whoop. I'm gonna move this over here. I'm gonna put this here, and then we're going to set this for another 5 minutes, and then we'll take these out of the canner and set them on our towels. Alright, so putting it over here, definitely got this, this peach jelly boiling up. So I'm just going to go ahead and cook this peach jelly this entire 5 minutes, and then I'll turn the heat off and take these out of the canner, and then I'll go ahead and fill these and put them back in the canner. I really dislike electric stoves so much. Alright, so there's our second 5 minutes for the canner. Let's see, I'm going to set this. And then I'm going to go ahead and get these out and get them on a towel. I love that popping sound. And I'm going to start filling my jars again. Alright, we're going to wipe our rims again. Swap these. Get this heating up. Definitely need to order some more lids. So we'll get these in here, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the other half of the peach jelly. I'm going to open those jars up, put them back in this pot, and cook them down. Yes. All right, so we are finally at the end of this project. Well, technically I still have 2 trays of plums that I need to pit and do something with, but they're in the freezer, so they're fine. So we ended up with 6 quarts, 2, 4, 6, 10, 12, 14 pints of just sliced peaches canned in light syrup. We've got this whole container of freeze-dried peaches. We've got 8 little half-pint jars of plum jelly and 14 half-pint jars of peach jelly, plus these 2 that weren't enough to fill up a full half-pint jar that will go in our refrigerator. Plus we had 4-gallon baggies of peach pie filling, which each one of those is enough to make 1 pie. So I feel like we really got a lot out of this harvest and the peaches that I bought, so that was fabulous. I'm so excited. This will be great for us to use through this fall and this winter before everything starts coming, well, and spring, I guess, before everything starts coming around again next summer. So I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me during this what seems like a really long project. I hope you enjoyed this video. I can't wait to taste all of this stuff. So if you like this video, if you would hit the like button, that would be great. And if you are not currently subscribed, if you would consider it, that would really help me out. You just hit that subscribe button and you can choose how and when and how often you want your notifications by clicking that little bell. And I also have a newsletter if you'd like to be part of my newsletter. There's a link in the description box below. You can just click that link. It'll take you straight to the sign up. You just put in your email and you'll get a weekly email from me that talks about what I'm working on, how things are going on the farm, what's going on with our family, just a little more information about us. So again, thank you guys very much, and I will see you guys on the next video.